Morning, Jenna.
Good morning, Sue. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for
Thank you so
having me
much for
on.
joining us.
You bet.
Okay. So, Jenna, you are a professional commercial food photographer and lifestyle photographer, but you've also done like a lot of other product photography, farming photography, fashion, a lot. You've done a lot of work.
Yeah.
I was hoping you could just give us a quick kind of some background information on yourself and how I know that you studied painting in school. And so I'm kind of curious, like how you went from painting to photography and then how you got into commercial photography.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is really exciting because I went to school for fine art and then majored in painting and then minored in digital photography. And, you know, being an art student, you kind of like don't always know like where your career is going to take you or what kind of opportunities are out there as far as especially in like um, a commercial world. But we get taught a lot about getting our work in galleries and the traditional steps about being an artist. So when I was in one of my photography classes in college, um, there was a design student in there that was also minoring in digital photography, and she mentioned how she got an internship at Crate and Barrel, and I was like, oh my god, I had no idea that there were like internships for people in our industry. I kind of didn't even see that as an option. So as soon as I heard that, I started searching instantly that night and found one for Reader's Digest in Milwaukee, which is pretty close to me. Um, so from there, I, you know, I looked at the company a lot. I researched the company a lot. I saw what they were doing. Most of it was food photography because they were doing work for Taste of Home magazine and a bunch of other food magazines. So I got my family to help me make some meals, and then I photographed them. It was completely um, amazing, and totally like my family like helped me out by like just making all the food. We did steak, we did a burger. It was a ton of fun. I definitely will say that was not my best work, but it did get me the job because they saw my enthusiasm for photography and for food photography and for that studio specifically. Um, they did tell me when I was in there that I was one of the only people that actually showed a lot of food work.
Hmm.
So so anyway, I did get the job, and it was completely amazing. It was a whole new world of like um, understanding what creatives could do as a profession. And because I will say, like when I went to school, I just knew I loved art. I knew I wanted to be an artist of some kind. It didn't really matter what it was specifically. I and in my I have always wanted to be a photographer, I will say, but um, where I went to school, they didn't major in it, so I didn't know where my life was going to take me. Probably thought maybe a art teacher or something, but um, so anyway, I then worked there for quite a bit, and then after my internship and after I graduated college, went to school, or I'm sorry, then I freelanced for them for a few years, and then through that made more connections and started working at other studios that shoot fashion and product photography, and just started making a name for myself. Started a food blog, and um, that's how I really started to get my own clients and um, be a commercial food photographer.
Wonderful. That's so
Yeah.
neat. Um, we have talked to a couple different photographers. Some are food bloggers, and that's their primary source of income. And then some editorial food photographers. I was wondering if you could just sort of very, very briefly tell us what the difference is between commercial photography and like editorial or fine art photography.
Yeah, absolutely. The main difference is how it's going to be used. So with commercial photography, companies are using this work that you're creating to promote their brand and to sell their products. So it's different in a way of a magazine, because a magazine is they're hiring you to appeal to their readers to sell their magazine, but they're not necessarily ads in the magazine. They do have that in magazines as well. And then definitely with fine art, you're selling your work as a solo like artist rather than selling it. And so it's directly to a consumer usually. Whereas commercial photographer, you're selling it to a business. So that, I mean, that's the
That's
briefest I
perfect.
could. Okay, great.
Yeah, perfect. Because up until recently, I really wasn't sure myself about what the difference was. Um, Now, I'm just curious if I know you're a very busy photographer, and not only are you, photographing all the time, but you're also teaching now, and we'll get to
Mhm.
that in a little bit, teaching me. And,
Yeah.
and I think there's like 8 more of us that are
Yep.
working with you for this year. Um, but I wonder, as someone who started out with an interest in painting and art, and obviously you're still, that's still a big influence on you. Do you still like to try to show your work, or do you still do some personal projects where you feel like you're not influenced by the brand
Mhm.
or anything else except your own vision? Like, do you have any time to do that kind of work? And do you like doing that?
Well, yeah, and in fact, I would say that's kind of how I structured my whole business, is to kind of make the work that really speaks to me, make the work that I want to make, in hopes of attracting the brands that want to see it. So that ideally, I'm shooting for um, clients that want my vision, and everyone's happy. But um, yes, and I will say that it's not so much to, well, actually last year I did get some work into a gallery, and that was really exciting because I haven't really done that in a while, like a gallery. But for the most part, that avenue of creating for me and for artistic vision and practice was the blog. So that is why I started it, so that I could keep shooting and keep myself accountable, and have a reason to send people my work, to have this like really professional looking platform, that I could keep in touch with everyone, and and send it to art directors or other creatives and all the people I could think of that would care,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
And just keep that going. Yeah.
Okay. I would love to just share my screen for just a second
Yeah.
and pop over to your blog, which you just mentioned. So here it is. It's called Little Rusted Ladle. And this is your food photography portfolio here. Look, oh my goodness. Look at these gorgeous shots.
Thank
And I
you.
see, we'll talk about your love for props, but you've just got the coolest props. I love this popover shot here and this steam.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, so beautiful. And then I also wanted to show this really cool shot. Remember this one?
Yeah, I do.
Look at that. I mean, I know that it's not as simple as just dropping a Ghirardelli square into some milk and then shooting the shot. There was a lot of other stuff that went into this. But I mean, look at how perfect you can see all the letters on that chocolate. The splash is incredible. And this is something that we're learning. We're going to try to learn right now, which is how to do these splashes. But anyway, I just wanted to show some of your work because it's so incredible.
Thanks, Sue.
Okay, let's go back to the two of us now.
Okay.
So you are also this year, you just started your Portfolio to Profit program,
Hmm.
which is a year-long program for aspiring, photographers like myself, food photographers.
Yeah.
Um, and I wonder, it's a really unique program. very, it has a definite, very focused mission in terms of what you're teaching us and what you're hoping to impart to us in terms of us building our portfolio. So I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about not only why you decided to create the program, but also how you thought it would help photographers further their business goals, like not just taking pictures for fun, but doing it with more of a purpose to make a living, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the commercial world, there are a lot of different avenues that you can take your business. And I would say the main reason I created this course was um, actually there's two. So one would be that after doing the food photography summit, I noticed that there's a lot of people in our industry that did don't have like the pricing foundations or the sort of commercial foundations that I had going in being an intern and then having a lot of mentors within my town that could guide me in a way that would show like just show me the ins and outs of the commercial world. So that was one. And then the other one was or is that I have a lot of other colleagues of mine that I would say the one thing missing in their business is their artistic voice, I would say. And it's very common in the commercial industry for people to want to get hired, just get that first job. And then from there, it kind of turns into this, well, you shoot products. So I'm going to refer you to my friend that also has products for you to shoot. And then you kind of go on this direction that doesn't quite align with what you truly want to create. So that could lead, like, I'm just trying to get everyone to be like living their best life. Like, what does that like look like for you? Like, what do you want to create? And so that we can get the clients that really speak to that. And so everyone's just like super happy about what they're doing because in fact, like if you're off shooting shoes and someone else is shooting food, but like you really love the opposite, like there's room for that. Like, so I just think that if everyone just does, what they truly want to and focus on, like it could like more room for everyone.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay. And you mentioned briefly the food photography summit or mastering the art. I totally want to talk about that for a second because that was a game changer for me. I think so it was in July, right?
Mhm.
And this was the first one. And the way it was structured was that like, you put out some notices that this was going to be happening. And then people who wanted to sign up like a little bit early would get like a VIP pass where you get access to everything and all
Mhm.
these bonuses and stuff. And I think I paid like, I don't know, it was like $79 or so.
Yeah.
And it was like hands down, without a doubt, the best summit or just online compilation of information, trainings, freebies, all kinds of things from, I mean, how many people were there? Like at least 50, right?
Well, there were a lot. I think it was more like 28,
Okay.
but that's still it was.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I can remember because this was in the height of the pandemic
Yeah.
and I was so excited to get up every morning and see who was going to be talking live and what the freebie was going to be. And by the end of the month, I had so much information in my brain, but also, I saved everything and
Yeah.
I learned so much. A lot of what I learned was like what I didn't know,
Hmm.
but you didn't just have photographers, you had people talking about like how to make your own backdrops. Like um, it was so fantastic. And that's how I got to know you. And then right after that, you unveiled that you were going to be like doing this mentoring thing. And I was
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. So I think you can agree it was a huge success. And
Yeah, I was taken back by like all the positivity around it. And like you've mentioned before, like people are just so giving and caring in this industry that um it was a beautiful thing, especially when everyone was feeling so down in like just the beginning of the pandemic. And um and just I was so honored, and like people were sending like some really nice messages, and like like you said, it was like lifting people's spirits. So like I'm happy to hear you say that too. Like you had a, you're excited to get up, and
totally.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
And you're going to be doing it again this year, right?
Yeah, this year, second week in June this time.
June. Okay. And I wonder for you personally, I know that you live now in the town you grew up in, which is in rural Wisconsin, right?
Yeah.
But you went to school and then you lived in Milwaukee, which is a bigger city, and worked in studios there. And so I just wonder for you, can you talk a little bit about how you moved back to your family farm and opened a studio there? And I wonder if you were kind of missing like that buzz of being around people, work colleagues and
Hmm.
just networking. I mean, because on the one hand, you've got like the dream life going with restoring an old barn and a farm, and you've got the family there with you close by. You can kind of pop into your office whenever you want, have a cup of coffee, be in your pajamas. But then it's like you're in a small town and where are my other people, right? I mean,
Yeah. So that was actually another like really big reason that I did the summit, was to bring back some of that community and bringing back the like the conversations around art, but more specifically around food photography, because in Milwaukee there are, there's a lot of food photographers, but my most of my friends were either fashion photographers or product photographers. And it was wonderful to be able to talk about all those things. And definitely after moving back, um, I think it was about a year and a half that I started um, kind of going after the summit and being like, this is going to be like really good for the community and really good for me to like, being able to talk about food photography. And because, it is such a small town. I live in a town of 700 people, and no one really understands what I do here. It's really like just my aunt was the same aunt that was helping me shoot the food photography, like, I don't know, so many years ago, um, like over a decade ago, was here because she wants to have just like a gathering at my studio. And like the way she was talking, I was like, okay, well, it's just like she just has still just no one knows.
yeah.
And no one understands, especially the props situation.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, that just reminds me. I mean, we recently like turned our second bedroom into a little photo studio for me, because before that I was photographing at our huge window here in our living room. And I mean, it's a huge window. And so anybody walking by with their dog or driving would see me like standing over these burgers or whatever. And sometimes I'd take it outside, and I'm sure people were like, what is she doing? Like,
Yeah.
what is a food photographer?
Yeah.
And I do, sometimes get comments from like my husband's like, well, you just bought 2 glasses. Why do you need 2 more glasses? It's tell us a little bit about props. Cause I know that, I don't know if it's like accurate to say that your work is prop driven, but you do love props.
I
And
do love props. And I think for me, it's more about storytelling.
mhm,
And it also is about, I think as a painter, like still lifes are such a big part of how I work and how I create things, that when I see props and I think about light and texture and like what the story is, that is actually like those are the first things I think about aside from produce itself.
mm,
But because I'm not necessarily the one creating the recipes or um, like developing the recipes or doing the food styling for that matter, I don't go to that first. I my first instincts are like props. What's the story with this prop? and then it's either like a color of food or what would go in that prop.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's usually the conversations that I have is if it's personal work. Obviously, if it's commercial work for a client, it's definitely the other way around.
Right.
But but yeah, I'll be like, okay, like I really want to use this. What can go in here? Like,
Mm-hmm.
can it be something purple? Can it be, you know?
Yeah. And you generally like the old stuff, right? Like the
I
antiques
do.
and the yeah.
Yeah. And I think for me, again, goes to the texture and the storytelling behind it and
Mm-hmm.
what the, yeah.
Okay, so speaking about props, I know that on some shoots, there's actually a prop stylist or two. So you're not even dealing with props. And, you know, recently I spoke to a stylist here, interviewed a stylist, and I asked her to sort of describe what a typical bigger production shoot would be. And I'm hoping you could do the same. And I was just shocked to hear her say that on her last shoot, which was, I think, for McDonald's, there were like 75 people on set. She said, you know, there were two prop stylists, and she didn't, her only job was to make the food look pretty. Like she, you know, she had an assistant. So I really wasn't aware of the scale of what bigger production shoots can be, but can you just take us briefly through, let's say you know, are hired by a client and it's a big client, because I know you have lots of big clients, and you pack up your bags and you get on an airplane probably. And although I know you do some shooting remotely,
Yeah.
but who are the other role players in your shoot?
Yeah, absolutely. So for a recent shoot that I did a month and a half ago, probably it was now, but for that one we had um I hired an assistant and I hired a digital technician and then I hired the food stylist and so this company hired me to hire these people and then we came on and that was our crew, but we were part of a much larger production. So who else was there was like there were a lot of people there because they had 4 models and then wardrobe, like a hair stylist, a makeup stylist, a they had 2 wardrobe stylists. So just the way that the clothes are fitting on and so just wardrobe, not props. So the the prop stylists, there were 3 guys, they were incredible. They had the best props. I was just like, oh my God, you guys are awesome. So in this case, I wasn't the prop stylist. Sometimes I am for my shoots. So so three just prop people. And then there were like 2 people from the company, like a men's merch higher up person and then a women's merch higher up person. And then the art director over all of them. Then there was just the production agency, which is such an interesting job. So the production agency is who everyone went through, and they're their own freelance company. So the actual company hired them to like figure out everyone's plane tickets, to figure out where we were going to get camera equipment rentals from, like, and then they like drove around on golf carts to like cart people around, cart the models around, cart us around, anything like gophers, like whatever we needed, they were like on. Oh, and then they take care of like all the food for the crew and breakfast. Hotel stuff, everything that you need goes through them. That's a really cool job. I would never want to do that personally, but like they're doing well. They are so organized. They were a dream to work with.
Yeah,
Um,
a
and
lot of
so
moving parts.
a lot of moving parts, and I'm not even done. There's like then there
Keep
was
going.
another photographer, but and then his whole crew, same situation kind of crew, but
And were
he
you
was doing more of the
photographing? Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, he was doing more of the fashion part of it, and I was doing the food photography and still life part of it.
Got
So
it. So
yeah,
you were shooting some food,
yes. Mhm.
but it was for um, not a food brand, though. There was just
Right.
food in the shot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
so exciting.
And so you are the photographer and you're taking your pictures. You've got, your camera tethered, so they're popping up. Who is giving you the final thumbs up? Or at this point, are you usually able to decide that for yourself? Like you've developed a level of, you know, expertise and trustability that, you can decide for yourself.
Yeah, so this is the second time working for this particular client. And last time, our first 3 shots got approved, and then they kind of just let us go.
Uh-huh.
Just kind of do, same awesome kind of stuff. And yeah, so this time, um, I think the art director came over maybe like 3 times, and that was kind of it.
Uh-huh. Um, and I'm sure, being an intern at a big publication early on for you was so invaluable because you got to understand how big, for companies that, they have a budget, they can
Mhm.
pay a photographer, they can pay, this is what earns them income is by being able to advertise their product and have it look beautiful. And so you learned that, but you also learned like, oh, this person does that. And you got to know people, you got to network with people. And I mean, even for beginners who are starting out with their phone, like I was just thinking, you know, it could be good to reach out to other students or other, some restaurant owners, or just the practice of not being afraid to get yourself out there and connect with other people is so valuable. Can you talk about why that is in our
Yeah,
profession?
yeah. Networking is such a great way to to get into the industry in general, and keep like jobs moving around, because I like when I first heard the phrase networking, like I really thought it was just for bankers and like because I was like, networking, ew. Like that sounds like I don't want to go to a networking like conference. That sounds like, what is that? Right. So
Yeah.
yeah. I was like, ew, I'm gonna have to learn about stats and weird stuff. So but what I realized, so I had that kind of concept in my head for a long time, and didn't realize that just by being in the same room and making friends and making genuine friendships is networking.
Yes.
And so, like, the best way to go about it is just to be genuinely interested in people's um, lives and what they're shooting, and to be like a caring friend, and to keep practicing like your your own skill, and like keep showing, and then show them or show other people like your work, because too, like some people are in the industry and don't really like, if they don't know that you want to be a food photographer, they wouldn't consider you. So like make friends and make sure you like tell them what you're interested in too, like in a way that's organic, of course.
Yes. Yes.
But if you're not saying what it is that you want, like no one else is going to know.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I remember just early on, my level of networking or marketing was just like put a picture on Instagram and just hope someone reaches out to me.
Oh
It just
yeah,
doesn't work that way,
it doesn't, and it's such a discouraging way to go about it too. Like it's so like, because I've done both too. I'm like, oh, I'm like, I love my work. Certainly someone else's, and I throw it up there like crickets. I'm like, oh, I guess I'll just keep talking to people
Yeah.
that actually hire me.
Yeah.
So, but it's a discouraging way, because like your work is part of you and you feel so connected to it, and then if you're not getting the feedback that you desire, it could be disheartening. So um it's good to actually like talk to people, face to
Yeah.
face or over Zoom or all
Yeah,
those things.
definitely. Um, I was wondering if you could give us some super basic tips on how to take good food photographs. And let's just assume that we're using a phone. But I
Mhm.
know that a lot of our students probably are going to get interested in photography. They might someday buy a camera, they might decide they want to be a food photographer. What are some tips that are sort of transferable?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely things that translate whatever camera you're using is composition and natural light. So if you want to get started or just exercise your skills more, like really focusing on um, where the light is in your home or wherever you are, like study the light that you already have because it's free. And just to make things easier, maybe just want a white curtain just to be able to have some versatility. And I guess a lot of things that I see maybe from people just getting started is if you're doing a flat lay to be directly overhead, because I think that skew can come off when you get into that in between area, whether you're like 45 degrees or overhead, it could um, it could be a game changer just to be like square. So square yourself up, whether just so watch those horizon lines too if you're like shooting into like making sure that you're level. Um, because your camera will have a level too, and it usually has like the um the grid
Yes.
for rule of thirds.
Yes.
So you can use that to your advantage. So keep things in those corners. If you
Yes.
look at a tic-tac-toe, like it looks like a tic-tac-toe. Um, those are my super basic tips that I think will like go really far if you and think about color too, not only composition but color, like what's your color story. A really simple way to go about it is being monochromatic. So but if you're already an art student, you're already learning about all these things, color combinations, and so utilize those too. I know you're probably learning about all that stuff in art class.
Right. But when you say monochromatic, you mean sort of basically picking one color that you're going to focus on and then
Yeah.
maybe one other one, but everything else is just sort of gray or
Yeah, I would say
desaturated.
it's mainly one color. Like
Yeah.
maybe if there's something that you have that, like say you have an apple with a leaf, then that green is already grandfathered in. But
Yeah. The leaf
otherwise,
counts.
one color.
Okay. I just have a couple more things I wanted to mention. And one, because you brought up natural light, and last month, our teaching module was on natural light. And you said something that it was just so simple, but the light bulb just went poof for me. And I think it's so important. You were working next to a big window and you were sort of seeing how I think they were, what are those little green tomatillos?
Yeah.
You were photographing these beautiful tomatillos with these fragile skins and kind of moving them around, experimenting with some bounce, some negative fill, seeing how the light changed at different hours of the day and stuff. And you said, one of the things I love about my profession is that we get to be patient. And I was like, because I come from a background where I worked in legal offices and everything was an emergency. Like my boss used to literally come to my desk and say, "Stop what you're doing."
Mm.
And so I developed this sense that like everything has to be done fast. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, that is exactly how I'm approaching my photo shoots. Like get in there, get it done quick. And that's why I feel frustrated so much because I'm not allowing myself to be patient. Not only that, but I wonder if I even can be patient because that's a muscle I haven't used. So, can you just talk about that? Because that was like kind of mind blowing for me to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when I mentioned the internship, when I mean that was a realization for me too, because I was in college and everything was an emergency as well. And you walk in and people are relaxed and they're having a great time because I mean, they're food photographers and like all those things. So there were 4 sets going on. And so then there was 4 photographers, 4 set stylists, 4 food stylists, and then a handful of like editors and art directors that would come in and out of the building or the room, and then one creative director that was kind of in charge of the studio. So it was awesome to see that in progress because each one of those sets only shot, their goal was to get 4 shots done in a day. And they made everything twice because they made it once to get the stand in or to like finesse the composition because that takes time to get it exactly right. And then it has to get approved by either an art director or the creative director or the editor. And then from there, then the food stylist goes to make a hero image or a hero plate is what it's
Mm-hmm.
called. So the actual one that's going to be photographed for the final. So not because of the way technology was back then, they probably, like for me personally, we kind of try to make that stand in a hero if we can. And then if it needs more help, then we'll just make another one. But at the time, like that was the process. Like make it twice, get it right, get it beautiful. And it was a very slow process. Like I would have to like find stuff to do in between shots, like sweep the floor and like really make myself like valuable and busy. So I like, so that's just another thing. Always go above and beyond what you're asked to do because that, I mean, I think I was one of 2 people that got moved up or that got hired back. Like there's like you really have to set yourself apart like if you want to get moved up to the next level. So whether that's an intern to being hired there after school or a freelance assistant to photographer, like you have to work at it and work on standing out.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Okay, my last question for you is, I wonder, because I know that you're very intentional in your business and that you plan out, your weeks. And I mean, you're not a robot for sure, but you do plan. And what are your own personal business goals for, like, let's say let's just say this year? I mean, you've probably planned out everything this year, but what is your kind of, what are some of your goals for the next 2 years in your business?
The next 2 years, I would say to keep going at a pace that I am in with my commercial photography, but to expand more of the teaching aspects of it. So keep doing both. And then I'm trying to make more time for my family and the farm and that sort of stuff. So like you mentioned, like we're renovating a barn that my dad
Tell us
owned
about that.
growing up. Oh my God, I'm just excited. I'm so excited for it. So the property that we bought for my dad is another farmhouse that he had when I was growing up. So we had just like another set of cows there. And it was just like less than a half mile down the road from where my dad still lives. He's lived in the same house his entire life, which I can't even imagine that because I moved like every 3 years. But since he was a baby till now, he's still living there and all those things. But so he retired and sold his cow. Well, he didn't retire. He would not say that. He did sell his cows though. And so that barn wasn't being used anymore. And so we bought the property. So there's a farmhouse there and the barn. And we're renovating both of those right now. And the barn, the haymow part of the barn is going to be, we're going to make that into a food photography studio. So full kitchen and
wow.
Yeah.
And where is your studio right now?
So right now we, this is a really exciting spot too. It's on Main Street in Auburndale, where I grew up. It used to be an antique store. Before that, it was a grocery store, and then like I don't even a soda fountain, I guess they call it.
Uh-huh. Yes, a soda
Yeah.
fountain. Uh-huh. My dad has fond memories of the soda fountain. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's so wonderful that I get to be a part of that like legacy of what's been here, and I mean what's here now. It's a really cool space, really high ceilings, nice brick building on Main Street, and it's like one of three. So it's not
Gotcha.
it's not busy, but it's great.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that. I thought you were on the property, but I hope that you'll share with us like the progress you're making in restoring that. I'm super interested in seeing that because I just think it's so, so neat.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will. So right now, last summer we worked on just like making it more structurally sound. Like so, nothing really visually changed
Yeah.
except for like better beams, and I don't even know actually. It's not my like
Yeah.
whatever they're doing.
Better beams. Yes. A
Better
stronger
beams, and then
foundation.
like yeah, stronger foundation. And there's this like product called like gunite that they put in the cement around it that it will make it stay pretty much forever. So what they say.
Gotcha. So the
Yeah.
cows are gone,
Yeah.
but you might grow a few things, but you're not going to be farming.
No, not farming, but man, did I buy a ton of seeds this year.
Cool.
We for the first time grew a garden last year, and it was really exciting too because like my dad and his fiance were doing it with us. So like that's I guess that's a part where like I'm really excited to be home and to be doing these things that kind of align with my life goals, and still being able to do the commercial work because I do a lot of it remotely, like you mentioned, and just really feel blessed to be where I am.
Yes, well, that's great. So, so good to hear all this information. And thank you again so much for everything you've shared with us and being such an awesome teacher.
Oh, well, my pleasure, Sue. You're an awesome student for sure.
Okay,
You're
thanks.
awesome.
Thanks, Jenna.